Hello. Today I'm doing a tutorial on how I rig mouths. That's just like the regular cutting up process, the drawing it process, the rigging it, the meshing it, and just like a basic mouth, but also vbridger stuff, so you can go mwah, 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 mwah. We got the cheek puffs in there, we got your tongue sticking out. We got all of it. So yeah, look at the timeline below, and if you already know how to do something, you can skip past that part. And yeah, I also I think I do mouths a little bit differently, so yeah, skip around, have a look, and see if it helps, I guess. Okay, let's go. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to start doing here is making some folders so we can stay organized and put all of our little parts in there. Our mouth is going to have 3 different folders. It's going to have one for the outer mouth and one for the inner mouth, and another one for a guide. The outer mouth is going to have our lips, our basically our lips, and the inner mouth is going to have like our teeth and our tongue and stuff. So what we're gonna do here is make a guide. We're gonna put a symmetry ruler on our project here, and we're just gonna start sketching out some of the different mouth forms that we want to have. It's pretty hard to maintain the symmetry in Live2d. There isn't like a symmetry tool per se. There are some symmetry options, but especially when it comes to the mouth, having a guide beforehand is really helpful. So I'm just gonna sketch out a few different mouth forms here. We're gonna do 3 different mouth forms for each form. Like we're gonna have a smile closed, a smile open, and a smile mid. Then we're also gonna have a frown closed, frown open, frown mid, and a neutral closed, neutral open, and neutral mid. And this is where I'm planning out as well where I want the teeth to be. So yeah, I will get back to you when that is finished playing. Okay, I'm back. So now we're gonna start blocking out our inner mouth. I'm gonna make one layer for the back of the mouth. We're gonna make a layer for our upper teeth. We're also gonna make a layer for our bottom teeth, and we're gonna draw our tongue. So I'm just kind of blocking these out. I did this pretty quickly for this tutorial. And I'm using the smile open guide that I made earlier just as a reference for where these teeth and tongue should be. And I'm drawing outside of the guide, like we want to overlap it. It doesn't really matter because we're gonna hide the inner mouth later. I'm just drawing skin around here so that I can see what it's gonna look like, so I can get the colors on like the tongue and the inner mouth right. But I delete that. We're not gonna put any skin color layer on here. And now we're gonna hide it because it's scary. So now we're on to our outer mouth layers. So what we're gonna want to do is draw our lips, and this is just like an anime character. If you were doing like a character with lipstick or more realistic lips, you would do a separate layer for the lipstick, but this is just like a chibi, and we want this line to be like as straight as possible so that it's easier to deform later. I know it's like you want to make them smile because it's cute, but trust me, this makes it a lot easier to rig later. So you want to have like a very neutral straight line, and that will be our upper lip, and then I literally just like copy and paste that for the lower lip. And we're gonna put in these little mouth corners. I like the mouth corners. You can leave out the mouth corners, but they are an option. I quite like rigging with little corners on the mouth. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna find a way to hide this like inner mouth that we made. So what some people do is put like a skin color layer, and you can kind of see with the cheeks here, and like if it comes off of the face at all, you can really see the like edge of that skin color, and I don't like that, so I do it differently. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna make this huge green layer. That's gonna make her look like a weird kappa or something. And I'm gonna do one of those for the top lip, and I'm gonna do one of them for the bottom lip, and I'm just gonna overlap them on the corners of the mouth there a little bit. And I'm naming that like lower lip mask, upper lip mask. And so what we're gonna do with those is we're actually just gonna mask off the inner mouth with those layers instead of using like a visible skin color layer. And that way the shading on the face and everything won't get messed up from the lip mask. And then I'm gonna create another layer here for our cheek puffs. Doing the exact same thing. I'm drawing this like green layer behind it, and then I'm gonna just hide that, and I'm gonna use that as a mask, as a clipping mask, in order to hide the mouth behind the cheek puff, basically. So all you're really gonna see is the cheek puff part of that. And that should about do it for your outer mouth. Okay, so let's go ahead and get her into Live2d. I'm just gonna do the guide with like a regular standard mesh. We're just gonna auto mesh that because it doesn't matter, we're not gonna rig it. I'm gonna do the cheek puff here, and I'm just doing the mask and the cheek puff at the same time so that they have the same mesh, and I'm gonna go ahead and glue those two together so that the mask doesn't ever create like a gap between the mask and the cheek puff. I basically want them to be the same part, just different parts. So I'm gluing them together. I'm messing around with the glue here. I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter. You don't have to do this part, just glue them together. They're fine. Okay, so for the lips and the mouth masks, I'm going to go ahead and edit all of these together, all four of these. And we're going to use this line tool to get a really nice clean line for our lips. I'm just going to increase the density that this has for points, and I'm going to drag these around to create a really easy clean lip line. And then I'm going to create 4 other points just around the corners here so that I can still see the masks. So I'm going to go in the mask, and I'm going to delete those 4 points that I created, and then I'm going to outline them, but I'm going to keep the mesh that I made for the lips in this mesh. I'm just going to create a really simple mesh for these. These don't have to move too much, but this is the mesh that I use for this outer lip mask. I'm going to do the same thing on the upper mask, just keeping that lip mesh in there, and then doing my own mesh for the mask itself. Just kind of going around and adding dots to the outside. And then for the lips, really easy, we're just gonna go in and delete those 4 points. And then what we're gonna do here is really important. We're gonna go ahead and glue the upper lip and the upper lip mask, and the lower lip and the lower lip mask. So those sets are glued together. Then I'm just really quickly gonna make a little mesh for the mouth corners. I'm going to copy and paste the mesh onto the other one to save time. And then I'm going to set up some of the clipping for this cheek puff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the cheek puff layer. I'm going to Control C, and then I'm going to paste that into the clipping ID, and I'm going to invert it. I'm going to click that little invert button. And I'm putting that clipping ID onto all of the mouth parts so that the cheek puff will block out any of the parts of the mouth that it's in front of. Then for the inner mouth, I'm also gonna make some meshes for these. These are pretty basic meshes. You could honestly auto mesh them. Aside from the bottom teeth, I know that moves a lot, so I try to keep a pretty dense mesh. And I try to go around the outline there just so that I don't change the width of the outlines too much. I found an extra part on the tongue, but it didn't really matter. It was just a piece of dust, so I just meshed the tongue as normal. I auto meshed the back of the mouth. I'm not even really going to move the back of the mouth at all. And then I went ahead and I grabbed those lip masks, and I'm just going to take all of the items on the inner mouth, and I'm going to paste that lip mask, both of them, into the clipping ID, and I'm going to again click invert. And that's basically going to make it so that the mask is covering the inner mouth no matter where our lip is there. So let's take a look at which parameters we need to make. So we need a mouth form, and that'll be from -1 to 1. And we'll also need a mouth open that's from 0 to 1. And these should already be on your Live2d here. We're also going to be making a mouth funnel that's 0 to 1. We're going to need a mouth press lip open that's -1 to 1. I'll set these all to the defaults afterwards. We'll need a mouth pucker widen that's -1 to 1, defaulted at a 0. We'll need mouth shrug that's 0 to 1. We'll need mouth X that's -1 to 1. We'll need a parameter for jaw open that's 0 to 1. We're going to be adding a cheek puff that's also 0 to 1. We're going to do a tongue out toggle that's 0 to 1 as well. And I'll be adding a last one to change the mouth forms into more of a cat mouth that's also 0 to 1. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create some simple mouth XY movement. And this is just going to be on the face, the angle X and the angle Y. So I'm just going to grab everything, including the mouth guide. And I'm going to use a deformer that I named mouth XY. And we're just going to put some deformers on angle X and angle Y. We're just gonna move this mouth into place when they're moving their head around. And I find the guide helps to kind of get the exact position that I want when moving the head left and right. Yeah, you can synthesize those corners, tweak it a little bit, but that's the mouth XY movement. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is start filling out our mouth form and mouth open. So when the mouth form is at 1, they're going to be smiling, and when the mouth form is at 0 or -1, I mean, they're going to be frowning. When the mouth opens at 1, they're going to have their mouth open, and when it's at 0, they're going to have their mouth closed. So I like to put 3 keyforms on the mouth form for starters and 2 keyforms on the mouth open, and I'm just using my guide to slowly push these into place. The glue does make the path deform a little bit wacky, so I like to use the brush tool mostly, and the path deform just a little bit in order to refine some finer details. You can change how many points you have on your paths with the edit levels on the top here. Yeah, so I like to fill out the mouth form with 2 keyframes first, so that once I have my mouth open, I can actually go and add that middle keyframe, but then I already have something to start with for the mid keyframe, the in between there. I did put the mouth open, like the smile open, on the wrong keyform there, and that's actually really easy to fix. You can just hit Control-Shift-C where it is, and then Control-Shift-V where it's supposed to be, and that'll copy and paste the actual position of your parameter rather than the part itself. It's really helpful. So yeah, this middle one is pretty easy, the little O in the middle. It's easy to mess up. Not easy, it's easy to mess up, and it gets a little wonky sometimes when your face is looking left and right, so make sure to check that and make sure it's not breaking. But other than that, that's the mouth open and mouth form. Here I'm just testing out the range, and look at it. You can look around now, you can move your mouth into the basic vowel shapes, but we can make it better. So the next thing I'm gonna add here is I'm gonna put a new deformer on the upper and bottom teeth, and I'm just gonna pull the teeth closer together when they are smiling and when their mouth is half open and when it's closed. And that gives you sort of like a grin smile. Another thing you could add is these little mouth corners. I'm just rigging them the exact same way that I rigged the mouth originally, with the mouth form and the mouth open. But when the mouth is half open or open, I'm just squishing them right into the corners there so that you can't really see them. They just go underneath the regular mouth lines. Yeah, I think they add a little bit of something. You just want to make sure that they're not popping off when you're turning your head. Next thing you could add for some extra dimension is a deformer on the tongue and the lower teeth, and attaching that to angle X and Y, and just giving some more dimension to this tongue. You want to be mindful of your tongue as well, because you're going to be using this to stick your tongue out later. So you want to make sure that it looks good from every angle and that it's not coming too far out. That you're not like getting all wonky. Like, you want to make sure that the bottom of the tongue that you're not seeing is looking right. So I like to take the lips off when I'm doing this phase. It makes it easier to see. Let's set up that cheek puff. I'm just gonna do a simple deformer on the cheek puff itself. I believe I put the mask in this as well. And I'm just gonna have it so when it's at 1, it comes over top of the mouth, and when it is at 0, it goes all the way off of the mouth. And I like to put in 2 keyframes pretty close to each other, like 0 and 0.1 maybe, just so that it doesn't have much room to be like half transparent, because I'm going to turn the opacity down when it's at 0. But yeah, I'm just sliding it in front of the mouth and then having it slide away from the mouth and disappear when it's at 0. I'm also going to create a new deformer over the cheek puff deformer, and I'm just going to move around the cheek puff with the mouth form so that it sticks to the corner of the mouth there. I also realized that I didn't have it set up so that it was in the list of clipping masks for the inside of the mouth, so I just added it to the list that they already had, and that solves that problem. So yeah, I'm just gonna move it around and have it match the position of the mouth once the mouth is changing shapes. It's just gonna follow the shapes that the mouth already has. Now we're gonna start doing the vbridger mouth stuff. We're gonna start with this mouth funnel. So I'm gonna select the parts of the mouth that already have the mouth form, mouth open, like the lips and the corners. And I'm gonna add a mouth funnel to this. At this point, like, you wanna be happy with the way your lips are looking. And I'm just gonna take the mouth and squish it in a little bit and open it up a little bit in the middle to create this funnel look. I'm gonna pull in those mouth corners as well, just to kind of make the mouth open up a little bit like that. And I'm gonna do that for the bottom ones where the mouth is closed. I tried to copy and paste the position there, but I thought it looked a little silly goofy, so I decided to just do it manually. I like to have that control, even though in certain cases it is easy to just copy and paste the funnel part. So yeah, I found the teeth looked weird there, so I'm actually gonna, I believe, add a keyframe here for the teeth and just copy and paste a frame where the teeth are open, so that the teeth are still open if the mouth is funneling. Yeah, I think that looks better. I thought about having the upper teeth there still, but no. So I'm just gonna do this for all of the positions where the mouth is closed. If the mouth is closed, it'll get a funnel position. I also like to edit the mouth into a little bit of a funnel on the middle mouths, on the mid open, those inner three. But that's kind of optional. I think it looks good. Yeah, so I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna pull the corners in a little bit. Like I'm gonna kind of just get a little bit of a funnel going, but it's not gonna affect it as much. Mostly just opening the inside and pulling the corners down. Just a tiny bit. That one kind of looked like a horse. It looks so funny on its own. But yeah, just a tiny bit of a funnel going on in the middle, and I don't add anything if the mouth is open all the way. And at this point, we have a lot of parameters on our mouth parts. And we're gonna add one more. At this point, like, be happy with it because we're not changing it. Once we add a lot of parameters, it becomes really hard to change anything. But I'm gonna add mouth press lip open here. So I'm gonna add new keyframes. And when it's at 1, we're just gonna kind of press and pull up and spread out the mouth a little bit, like widen it, and then push the inside in a little bit. If you had lipstick, this is where you would be like rolling your lips into your mouth a little bit, but if you have like an anime character like this, it's kind of hard. I actually really like this smile press form where I sharpen the mouth out into like a little V. I think it's a really cute mouth shape in general. Yeah, and I only do this on the closed forms because you're not going to be able to press your lips together if your mouth is open. And then when the mouth is open, I'm just going to open it a slight bit. You can even skip this part, like you could just have it do nothing on this side if you wanted. Like just having the mouth press adds a lot to it already. And it's the same thing, it's just the opposite. I'm just going to open the lips a little bit. And since you already have the mouth funnel set up, the funnel will just take priority over the mouth press lip open. So if the funnel's on, the mouth press lip open won't do anything. So for the jaw open, I'm going to put a deformer on the like head base itself. I'm going to drag that down when the jaw open is activated, and then I'm also going to put a deformer over the whole mouth itself and drag that down a little bit. We're not working on the mouth anymore, we're only working with deformers. I'm also going to add a little bit of a cheek puff to the head base as well while I'm working on that. Now I'm going to add a new deformer that's under mouth XY and encompasses everything else in the mouth, and call it mouth pucker. This is for our mouth pucker widen. And when it's at -1, I'm gonna squish it in, and when it's at 1, I am gonna stretch it out a little bit. You don't want to stretch it out too much. I find it's the squishing it in that really helps. And I believe I delete the keyframe in the middle here. I just felt like I didn't need it. And I wanted it to be more of a sliding scale between one or the other. Yeah. Next, I'm going to make a deformer for mouth shrug that's underneath mouth pucker, and I'm simply going to lift everything up a little bit when mouth shrug is active. I might push it up in the middle just a little bit, and yeah, that's mouth shrug. Mouth shrug's easy. We like mouth shrug. Next, I'm going to make a mouth X, and mouth X you want to have all of the parts on the outside of your mouth. You want it to control everything. I even added the mouth back in there, just so that it was never sliding too far. But yeah, you just want to push it to the side a little bit, This one takes a little bit more finessing for me. I like to do it with the mouth open and with the mouth closed. But yeah, just so that I make sure I don't move it too far. I find it's really easy to move it too far off of the teeth there. You can see at first I didn't have the mouth back in there. And as soon as I add the mouth back in there, it stops that issue where you're going too far. I found it was a little weird with that in between smile phase where the teeth are closed. So I actually went in and added mouth X to the teeth and just kind of widened them a little tiny bit when it's only on that specific mouth form. So for the tongue, how I'm gonna do this is I'm actually gonna copy and paste the tongue and the tongue XY, and I'm gonna make a new deformer called tongue out. And I'm gonna take off the lower lip clipping mask for this new tongue that we've made. Yeah, so then the tongue will be out, and on our tongue out parameter with our deformer, we're just gonna, when it's at 0, we're gonna sneak it back into the mouth there, and we're gonna lower the opacity, and we're gonna rig this so that the tongue is hidden, and then when it comes out, it'll just come out and it'll cover our regular tongue that's behind it. And then we're gonna wanna also change the tongue with the mouth forms. And I also moved the upper teeth. I messed around with the order here and I moved the upper teeth above the tongue. And then the upper teeth are gonna be covering the lower lip. So you actually wanna use a clipping mask on the lip so that the lip is still visible if the upper teeth cover it. So yeah, then we're gonna make a deformer here, tongue mouth form, and we're gonna just change the shape of the tongue. It's mostly that middle mouth form right here that really gives me trouble with the tongue, especially because on angle XY you can see the upper mouth mask still covers it a little bit since that upper mouth is dragged down so far there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I'm happy with that, and then I'm actually gonna add angle X and Y parameters to it after I'm happy with all of the mouth forms, just so that I can edit the very middle. See, I'm editing it here without adding them and the tongue got all wonky. So yeah, I'm just gonna edit the very middle one so that the tongue's in a slightly different position when their head is moving, so that it's not clipping. And it gives you a little bit more control with where the tongue is when it's sticking out as well. So here's some footage of me trying to do the Neko mouth with a blend shape actually. So I had blend shape toggled on this parameter. And that way it's literally gonna affect every single parameter that it's on. And I thought this was a fun idea, but it ended up changing it in a way that I didn't like. Like, I'm sure I could have messed with it over time and really sorted it out. It was a really fast way of doing it, but I wanted more control, so I actually went in and made it a regular parameter and did it this way. So the annoying thing is when you make it an actual parameter is that we already have so many parameters on these mouth shapes. Fortunately, there's not that many shapes where we need to worry about having the Neko mouth show up. It's mainly on the mouth forms. I did forget that the mouth press lip open does need to have the Neko forms on it, and it needs to have them on it, but with just simply copy and pasting the position of the forms. Copying, pasting the keyframes over, it wasn't that hard, but it does require some extra work. So the blend shapes option is definitely something I'm going to be looking into more in the future, but this just kind of gave me some more control. Here's me copy and pasting these shapes over with the mouth press lip widen, but for the most part just went and put it on all of the forms. So here's how you're going to set it up with vbridger. You're going to want to do your phone's IP address into vbridger, and then you're going to want to connect that to VTube Studio. I'm just going in here and changing the movement config so that it's off while I'm activating this. And I'm just messing with the eye open because my eyes aren't closing all the way. So I'm just lowering that value until my eyes are blinking properly. You'll have your mouth smile and your mouth open already, and you might also have the mouth X. So you're just going to want to type in the inputs and match the outputs that you've made. If you search for mouth, you'll get all of the inputs and outputs. And then I'm just matching the emotions with my face here, and I'm setting the values so that they're optimal for my face. With the mouth press lip open, you're actually going to want to change the mouth open. You're going to want to press your mouth and then add that the value that your mouth is into the mouth open. Otherwise, your mouth will open a little bit instead of doing the little press. So I'm going to go through, we're going to add all of the parameters that we made with vbridger. We're going to add our mouth funnel in here. Again, I'm just mimicking the motions with my face and trying to find the optimal input values that are like at the maximum and minimum of my range here. We're going to add the mouth pucker widen. This one I kind of have trouble with because like I don't know what the widest value of my mouth is supposed to be. Okay, but it's already starting to look more expressive. We're gonna do jaw open, which will allow you to like chew and stuff with your mouth closed. I'm gonna add in the cheek puff, and the cheek puff I find is quite finicky, so I like to add quite like a I don't want the cheek puff to accidentally be on. So I try to like move my head around and puff my cheek out and see if I can break it and see where the ranges of it are. I don't want to be accidentally cheek puffing if I look around, and I don't want my tongue to only be sticking part of the way out. We want your tongue to be all the way out. So yeah, just testing these kind of things. I'm going to add the expression with the Neko mouth, and I am going to set that up with a hotkey N for now. And this way we can turn the hotkey on and have our mouth change. This is where I realized that I needed to change that expression with the mouth open. So now it will, when the mouth is open. And that's pretty much it. That's as expressive as I've made a mouth so far. I hope it helps if you're looking into making a vbridger mouth for yourself, or if you're looking into having separate forms for your mouth. I've seen people do them with like cat-like mouths, or having like scared or angry forms of the mouth where your lips are kind of wobbly is the best way I can explain it. But yeah, let me know if that helped, and maybe I'll make more, but this did take a really long time, so I don't know. Okay, bye.